Father, as we come before the throne of grace tonight, Lord, we just come here seeking you, Lord, your wisdom, your knowledge, your understanding, your discernment, Lord, to help us as the city government here, Lord, to help lead this municipality the way you'd have it to go, Lord. Help us to be successful in your eyes in all things that we do. Give us that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, Lord, and discernment, Lord. Help us. We need you. Your word tells us if we seek you, we'll find you. So, Lord, we're leaning on that. In Christ's name, amen.
Good evening. Thanks for everybody who showed out tonight. I'd like to call the May 7th work session to order. First on the agenda is our minute approval. I need a motion to approve the April 16th, 2024 regular session minutes. Second? All in favor, show of hands. Okay, we want to start with our report and our finance department report. Thank you so much. Police Department report. Good evening. Make sure you speak into the mic. Yes.
Woo! All right. I know you can hear me without it too. All right, I'm going to do public works. So we have the library rails have now been repaired. We're going to go ahead and paint them. Cleanup is this weekend, Friday and Saturday. So make sure you do have your ID and your card. You get 2 hauls per card. And we are not accepting certain items, so please check out the Facebook web to make sure you're not bringing those items. They will be refused. We're starting to clean the alleyways. Working with Waste Pro, we found out we had multiple extra trash cans that do not belong to anyone. They are being removed. So please do not use these cans. They do belong to the businesses who are paying for them. And we also are having a problem with people using the big bins, which once again belong to the businesses, hauling trash from their homes and or other entities and filling them to the rim. Please be aware, someone is paying for this. It is not your garbage bin. Leaf and limbs, I have to say our guys worked very hard, Bobby especially. Just because we're short-staffed, we knew we had to get it done between the winds, the rains, and spring cleanup. They did work some extra time last week. You probably saw them between 5 to 9 o'clock at night. So please, when you see them, it was Bobby and Jimmy. Give them kudos. I really do appreciate that. Hammond Road update. I did talk to Pittman today. They're a little bit behind. We got all of our utilities marked, so we're ready to go. Matt told me it will be no later than 2 weeks, he hopes. Hopefully, the rain will stay away. I want everyone to be aware this road will be done, but this time of the year is very, very busy for these guys. With the state giving extra LMAG, they're exceptionally busy. And with 316 and other entities around us getting paved, they are booking it. So please be aware, it is coming. I know you'll be grateful when it's done. I'll be grateful when it's done. So on the good note, we did receive award today. This was for Sunset. This was known as a cry letter. As everyone knows, our pipe got washed away. It collapsed on us. And I have to say that's the prettiest pipe in town. If you want to see it, enjoy it. It is pretty. So we were awarded up to $55,000. Just depends what they're going to give us. It is $30,000 and or 70% of what we paid. I have filed that today, all their paperwork, hopefully to receive it. We also received LAR LMAG money in the amount of $55,456 this week. To date, we received LMAG, another LMAG 2024, $44,780, and we received another LMAG 23, $41,782. The LMAG for the 55,000, 44,000, and 41 is going towards Dooleytown Road. I have looked at the budget. I have talked to the accountants. I am gaming to shoot for that one this year's budget. Next year is going to be tighter, seeing that the sewer capacity is going to be down, our buildings are going to be down, and especially seeing that we got extra money today from the state. Overall, Dooleytown contribution from the state was $142,017. The project is estimated $258,000. We will go a little bit above that. We're looking at making a couple improvements on the way. So when we go out for bid, we'll state those improvements. Beyond that, that's it. That's all, folks.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good job. Love it when that money comes in from the state. Yay. Tonight's mayor's report, I want to thank the council for all their help with Cities Week. It was a great week. We had lots of fun. We were able to love on our employees a bit, feed them a good lunch, hand out some T-shirts. And all in all, I feel like Cities Week was a success, and I want to thank this council for all of y'all who helped us make it happen. Some of the things that I've done this past month were attend the Chamber Luncheon. I attended GMA's 5th District Meeting and Social Circle. I met with Susie Dukes at the Statham Library. I attended Train Day in Winder and the Bogart Butterfly Festival. I attended the Tree Committee meeting. I was at the closing for the Public Works Building at Mr. Strickland's office in Winder. I met with Brad Martin with Republic Services, attended the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission meeting, met with Houston Yang, met with the Finance Committee, attended the cleanup day for Statham beautification. I met with citizens to kick off Cities Week. I attended Women in Business and attended the meeting with the GDOT here in Statham. I attended Board of Directors meeting for the Chamber of Commerce, and I attended Color Day for the children to celebrate Cities Week. I attended the Boys and Girls fundraiser in Brazelton, a luncheon appreciating our employees for Cities Week. I attended the Makers Market here in Statham, attended training in Carrollton for the Small Cities Conference, and we hosted the kindergarten at City Hall and provided books sponsored by Cable East, Statham Lions Club, Castos, and the Electrical Contractors of Statham. It's been a great month, and I want to thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to serve as your mayor. So now we'll go into our discussion item, and so talk about the JP Home Builders. Wait a minute. Are any of our committees needing to report? Are y'all prepared to report?
Yes.
Thanks,
You want to
Lynn.
go first?
Dang it. I thought for sure I was out of that. For the tree committee on Saturday, April 20th, we had probably about 15 volunteers plus Girl Scout, the Statham Girl Scout troop. A group of us went out on Atlanta Highway, picked up trash. Thank you so much to the Lieutenant for keeping us safe out there. We also had a group that weeded and mulched the beds here in town. It was a really good day. We got lunch from Savvy's, which is really nice. And that's pretty much it. We got on May 16th, there's going to be a Girl Scout bridging ceremony out at Deweytown Community Center. We have a tree planting out there also. And that's kind of it for a while, probably until the fall.
I do. I'm not good on the microphone. I just wanted to report on the Makers Market. So that was April 27th. We had 23 vendors, and we ended up making about $400 off of that. Our next event that we have coming up is June 1st, and it's a summer kickoff. It's from 9 to 12 downtown on Railroad Street, and it's a lot of safety plus fun for kids. There's going to be the police department, fire department, Safe Kids, and, you know, everybody come out for that. And then the other thing that we have coming up is our July 4th celebration, which is actually on July 6th. And we have been raising money for the fireworks. So far, we have that's turned in is $3,450, and pledged we have $5,950. So we're still collecting money for that. So if anybody wants to give some money for their business or themselves, see me. And if you have any question about any of the events, we meet the fourth Monday of the month at 6:30 here at the community center. Thank you.
I'd like to report on the outreach committee. Our city police department, Chief Underwood, I want to thank him and all the officers for partnering with us, the city here, and with the Statham Elementary, specifically the second graders, Dr. James, the principal over there. We did a search and find. We were planning on doing a live search and find at the school, but it didn't work out that way. And Sergeant Russo and some officers, along with Officer Nora, the K-9, the weekend prior, they did a video of a search and find. And, Wednesday, forgot the date now. I had it a while ago, but, it was a couple weeks ago on a Wednesday. And, we presented this to 6 different second grade classes, and we did it in 20-minute segments. Lieutenant, Hood did the presentation along with 2 of our lady officers, that were in attendance with us, and there were 20 or more students in each class. And so, everything went great. The kids got enthusiastic about it, and they learned some things about, our police department, our city government, and how a canine works, search and find. And so it was, good all the way around, and we appreciate, the opportunity for everyone here to participate. And again, many thanks to our police department, all of the officers, and everyone. Thank you, Chief Underwood, and very much so. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move over to Jody now.
Thank you, Mayor. We are on item number 1, which is a discussion of a proposed modification agreement as to permanent utility easement. And in fact, why don't I head up there? It'll be easier for me to go through all of this. So the development at issue here is known as Richmond Woods. It is a subdivision, a single-family subdivision located off Doc McLaughlin Road. This is not located within the city limits. However, it is within our sewer service and water service delivery area. So the city provides sewer and water to the development, but as far as building, as far as zoning and all that, it's not inside the city limits. The subdivision contains several sewer and utility easement areas that have been dedicated and accepted by the city. That, just so you understand the timing and the process, typically what happens is the developments are built out, the infrastructure is installed, things like roads and sewer utility easements, water lines, sewer lines, what have you. Once all that infrastructure is put in place, and it is put in place correctly, we inspect it and everything is done right, then it's dedicated to the city. Sometimes that happens after all of the homes have been built. Sometimes it happens before the homes are built. It just kind of depends upon when they come to us to offer it to us. We go out there and make sure it's done correctly. It's built in accordance with our rules and regulations. In this particular case, it was done before any of the homes were built. The issue that is before you tonight and that the city has been discussing with the builder that's out there involves a sewer utility easement between lots 28 and 29. And I unfortunately do not give y'all the existing utility easement, but I have used what y'all have on Exhibit B. I've marked. Take a look at it, pass it down. We have discussed it once in the past, but there's some new members of the council since we last discussed it, so I think we need to go through it one more time. The utility easement that exists right now, the outside boundary is marked in a red line on the plat that I have shown you. As you can see, one of the homes has been built inside of the utility easement area. The utility easement area is supposed to be completely undisturbed so that if something goes wrong, we have complete use of the 30-foot wide utility easement in order to conduct maintenance. Obviously, this constitutes an encroachment into our utility easement area. We have been trying to, and this is something, again, that was done without the city's knowledge. It was a problem that was discovered. The builder came to us and said, hey, we have a problem. We need y'all to allow us to make some changes. And our public works director, Mr. McDaniel at the time, had some reservations about several of the proposals that were being made. The final proposal that has been offered to the city that the builder wanted the city council to consider is as follows. The easement area would be reduced from 30 feet down to 25.95 feet. We'll call it 26 roughly. And the easement area would be shifted approximately 7 feet up to the north, which would take the existing home completely outside of the easement area. And if you look at the plat that's attached to the proposed modification as Exhibit B, the net effect of it would be the fireplace on lot 29. The edge of that would be the outer edge, outer boundary line of the utility easement area. And then another 2 feet is where the sewer line is located. The developer has asked that the city accept this modification, and in addition to that, they have offered to post a bond with the city that is only good for a period of 4 years in the amount of approximately $87,500, and that is what we estimated would be the cost to repair the line, move the line if anything goes wrong. We had some estimates made on that, and so for a period of 4 years, the risk would be on the bond company if we have to go in there and make repairs. After 4 years, the city's risk that we run, that something happens, then we would have to go in there, we would have to make the repairs, and then we would run the risk that in making repairs, we cause damages outside of the easement area. That's the concern. The concern is, can we properly maintain that sewer line without destabilizing the slab or the home that's built on lot 29? The one question that I have asked, and we have not unfortunately been able to connect, I have tried to contact Greg at EMI, the city's contract engineer, to determine whether this proposal would enable the city to safely maintain that sewer line if something happens. And I'm not an engineer, unfortunately, so I can't answer that question. And that's something I would defer to Greg at EMI on, and I have not been able to connect with him to get an answer to that question. So I'm sure that's a question y'all have, and honestly, my recommendation is we need an answer to that question before y'all can make any kind of informed decision. But in the interest of time, I wanted to bring this to the council because the builder has asked. And of course, they can't do anything with that home until such time as this is resolved.
Risk?
So, to be clear, 2 things are true. Number one, the existence of the encroachment is already, it can be discovered by the public record. The plat is a matter of public record, so too is this issue. It's obvious and apparent from the lines of the surveys for these properties that the house got built on top of the sewer line. So, like I said, the house is not sellable right now because of the sewer line, or it's encroaching into the easement area. As far as future homeowners go, they will, everybody in the world, everybody in the state of Georgia is considered to be on what we call constructive notice of what is in the real estate records. So part of their due diligence, Scott could probably attest to this as a realtor, you are supposed to go and you're supposed to do a title exam. You're supposed to pull the plats. You're supposed to pull, the deed records to find all easements in the area and learn and discover this. Now, does that happen? Not often, because most people aren't lawyers and they're not sophisticated enough. But conceptually, they're supposed to know as part of their due diligence. And if they don't figure it out, unfortunately, it's let the buyer beware.
After the 4 years, that's not negotiable, not renewable.
It ends. Yeah, actually the bond is only good for 2 years, but it is renewable, and they've offered to renew it another 2 years. Beyond that, though, the insurance company would not offer them a second renewal term.
Yeah, my whole concern on it was when you brought it up initially, and still is, I mean, are we actually gonna be able to go in there and fix it with correct equipment if something were to happen, whether it be 4 years from now or 10 years from now? And is this 4-year bond even gonna be that great? Because, I mean,
Most of the time, sewer lines don't fail within the first 4 years.
they don't. I mean, most things on a house period out there is not gonna fail in the first 4 years, so I need to hear from EMI before we can make any kind of.
And I will also offer that there was some discussion previously about basically moving the sewer line as it currently configures. Basically, it's a straight line right now. Create an end point, turn up, go down, turn back down. But 2 problems with that. If you do that, you're basically adding 2 manholes in the middle of somebody's side yard, which was not aesthetically pleasing to the builder trying to sell a home. But more importantly, it would cause that sewer line to be moved very close to a stormwater drain line that's in the dead center of that easement area. And I think there was some tension and some reservations from our Public Works Department about putting a sewer line that close to a stormwater line. That's right. And God forbid you had infiltration. So, there's no decision to be made tonight. My recommendation at this point is to wait for EMI's word, and I will follow up with Greg tomorrow to try to get some clarity on this. And if I can get an answer, I will, of course, email the council so that y'all can make a decision. And by the way, the range of decisions are, yes, we'll agree to it. No, we're not going to agree to it. You figure it out yourself. Or if y'all want to make some kind of a compromise offer, you can. But again, this is, to be clear, this is a situation that the city is being asked for some grace and some mercy, but there's a risk associated with that. So just be aware of that. And I'm happy to answer any other questions y'all have. All right. Thank you. So typically comments are during public works, or I'm sorry, during public comment, with the exception of, I know there's going to be one exception tonight because, oh, you left? Okay, well, normally public comment is reserved till the end, so if you want to sign up, by all means.
Just some incorrect information about the lot numbers on the line. I just, want to make sure you got all the information.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, Mayor, if you want to, he's welcome to speak.
Excuse me, I'm John Perkins, 122 Sunningdale Drive, Winder, Georgia. I'm one of the owners of JP Home Builders, also owner of Progressive Realty. The correct lot numbers are 27 and 28, not 29. Just want to be clear about that. I do want to give some feedback as to how this happened. There are multiple easements within the neighborhood, 20 feet. I believe this is the only 30-foot easement. They're always, as long as I've been doing it, centered on the property line. For whatever reason, this one was not. It's 20 feet towards 28, in towards 27, and not marked on the plat, final plat, which is what I have to go off of. It does say 30-foot easement. I assumed and accept responsibility that I thought it was 15 and 15, like every other easement in there was 10 and 10. So that's how this come about. And if it had been 15 and 15, the only thing that would be over now would be the fireplace, which would not be a big deal. But because that's not the way it is, clearly I've got a problem. But what I'm asking is obviously to move the easement over. And to your point about the storm and sewer, the engineers will tell you there's no recommended distance because it's not drinking water. So they could be closer together. Obviously, there needs to be some space. And then the city did accept where the sewer line is. I do want to point this out. And that if the house was in the correct space, you'd only have 7 feet towards lot 28, which would not be enough room to work to replace that sewer line. So even if I was in the correct space, you still don't have enough room to fix it. So shifting it left makes all the sense in the world to give you the space if anything does come about. We come forward hat in hand. We realize that at the end of the day, it's our responsibility and our mistake that we're looking for some, as he called it, grace. So. Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Next, you'll find on the agenda an ordinance amending the code of the City of Statham for the financial policy to provide for rules and regulations regarding the use of credit cards or purchasing cards issued to the city. You'll find, that ordinance here within your paperwork.
Yes, it's the Jody show tonight. So Mayor, this is, as y'all are aware, the city has adopted a financial policy that governs pretty much all of the city's finances, including budgeting, purchasing, revenue, bonds, all types of items. And there is some very sparse regulations in the financial policy regarding the use of purchasing cards and credit cards issued to the city of Statham. The existing regulations are woefully insufficient in light of state law. Y'all may recall back in 2016, there was a very public controversy involving that wonderful trade school down off North Avenue where professors were improperly using, sorry, my bulldog is coming out in me, were improperly using state-issued purchasing cards and for improper personal purposes. And so legislation was passed saying that before any governmental entity, city, county, state agency can use or issue credit cards to employees or agents, they have to have certain rules in place, and also that an agreement be signed by the employee where they acknowledge that they've read the policy, agree to be bound by it, and agree to indemnify the city against any improper use. So what we have done here is we have amended just that section of the financial policy involving credit cards to effectively incorporate the rules and the mandatory provisions that were set forth in the statute, and also to go ahead and draft a proposed employee notification agreement in here. What this will do is it will allow the city to issue purchasing cards or credit cards to certain city officials, department heads, and what have you. All expenditures are still subject to the purchasing guidelines. So, for example, if they go over the monetary threshold, they would have to go get bids. There'd have to be advertisements for others. So this does not supplant or take the place of those controls. But for example, the items that are within, the discretionary limits of department heads, which I believe is $500, maybe even a little higher than that, but whatever those discretionary limits are, they could use a purchasing card to do it rather than having to come in, get a check, or then get reimbursed. It's just, it simplifies things. And so that's the purpose for this ordinance, and that's what it does.
According to this, it's only the mayor and department heads of the city, so the council would not be able to use the city credit card.
So in this instance, the individuals that have been identified are the mayor and the department heads, yes. But that, if y'all wanted to add other individuals, you could, but those are the only ones under the policy, the draft that would be allowed to hold a city-issued credit card.
Hey, Cheryl, can you get a little input on what your thought on that is?
Yeah, I actually talked to Jody about this. The city wants to go out and get credit cards that establish end users. And what that is because we have travel, training in every department, elected officials. This way, you have a card. Once again, you fall underneath the financial policy that you would then administer your education and your travel. We are in today's world, credit cards is acceptable. Writing checks is very hard to do with some of these entities. When you go to class, you have to go online and register. You have to book your hotels. And what is happening when we have one card, we're getting bottlenecked very, very much. We actually had to get a new card, and for almost a month, we could not purchase anything because it took that long with the mail getting our assigned credit card. So all this does is it establishes an end user. And yes, I do agree, it should be council, mayor, employees. We do have a standard card that we do our purchasing with, but one of the things that I was more looking at is multitudes of education and travel is where I'm getting bottlenecked on making sure people are assigned a card when they're gone. Now, I did work for the county government and we did the same thing. We had assigned cards by your entity, not by your name. The name still remains the city of Statham. The card and the bank statement still belongs to the city of Statham. The guidelines still follow underneath the policy of the city of Statham. So this is why I went to Jody, and Jody has addressed why the state started this new statute was because certain entities misused it. I don't believe that this council will misuse them, but to keep things according to the state regulation, we have to up this policy.
So the only concern that I would have, there's no problem conceptually with adding the city council members as authorized users and authorized holders of city-issued credit cards. The issue becomes one of integrating that with the existing financial policy. The existing financial policy gives authorizations for department heads to spend less than $200. The city administrator gets to bless anything between $200 and $5,000. $5,000 and above, there's processes, but it ultimately is approved by the mayor and the city council. So in theory, the city council does not fit within the definition of a department head, and therefore does not have authority under either the charter or the financial policy to make purchases unilaterally. So there would need to be further amendment to the financial policy to make that happen. That's part one. Part two, though, is if we leave these monetary amounts in place, and I know there's some discussion and some work happening right now on, analyzing whether these numbers need to change, but let's just assume for a second they stay the same. Even if we grant city council members authority to make such transactions, that second category, the 200 to 5,000, would still have to be blessed by the city administrator before the card could be used. So there's a practical component, and if y'all are okay with that, no problem. But if you want to just have more carte blanche, if you will, then we would need to make even further changes.
And I'll address that. Jody and I have talked about the policies, reviewing the policies. We know that these policies have to be updated and integrated with today's times and with the same language. Right now, I am booking all the classes and all the hotels, so we fall underneath the guidelines of these regulations. But here again, in today's world, if you have 3 people going to a conference and the city only has 2 credit cards, I'm in trouble. Okay? So this is addressing issues that need to be addressed and should have been addressed a while ago. So we'll work with Jody and we'll integrate the new financial policy. We're in May, we've been here since January, and we're looking deeply into all of our policies to bring them up to date. So I do bless that the council needs to have cards, and they will say council member and or mayor. Once again, it is not in a person's name. It does belong to the city, and it will fall underneath the guidelines of the financial policy. Okay?
So would y'all want, let's just, again, understanding that we're not doing a wholesale revision to the financial policy right now, do y'all want it to be that city council members have authority to go up to 200? Do you want to go higher than that? Do you want it to be 200, and then if it's over 200, as long as you run it by and got the blessing of the city administrator, it's okay? How do y'all want it to work? I can make it work any way you want.
I will give a recommendation of up to 3,000.
Okay.
And this is why. You get a class that is that you have to go to, it might be 1,200, and that might be so many classes. And we don't get the statement for the month. And then you have another class and or travel and or hotel. This is where the bottlenecking is happening. It isn't one purchase of 3,000. It is multiple purchases that add up. And then in the meantime, we're waiting for a statement. We have to pay the statement. So that's why I'm asking for that dollar amount at this time.
Then let me add two additional recommendations. Recommendation number one is that we establish a yearly maximum for each officer, mayor, city council, to spend up to on the card. I think that's an important check and establishes important accountability. Second, I would, this is more of a planning thing. If we are going to establish that, my recommendation is that we establish this in the budget for next year. That there be a specific line item for each council member to have up to that yearly amount, and that it be incorporated into our budget.
Yeah, I like that because the recommendation has been to identify end users. As we do with every grant we have, it is by title. That way, by title line item, you can bring it up and you would know the expenditures.
What would the yearly total be? I mean, 3,000 is the maximum single purchase. The way it's written right now is, well, so the council members will have up to $3,000 authority for any single purchase. Then monthly, I already had in here 10,000, and that was just a kind of a placeholder number. If we want to do it monthly, we can do it monthly. If we want to do it annually, we can do it annually. I think you need both. I think you need to have a monthly max and a yearly max as well. And I don't think it needs to be monthly times 12. I think the yearly needs to be much lower than that.
Jody, if you would give me time to research, because this way I can research what classes have been, what the average is, and then that would be the averages of meals and or classes and or dues. Then I will give it and we'll be ready for next month to review it.
Okay. I'll go ahead and start making some of these changes and then just leave blanks for you to fill in.
Okay.
Hey, Cheryl, I also assume that before these purchases are made, that approval is given by City Hall for that particular council to take that class, and is given an estimate of what that class is going to cost.
Yeah, so basically, what has been going on since I've been in office is I receive an email for a request.
Yeah.
And that request, then that is assigned. I go online and I book the class or I book the hotel. So what this is going to do is, the other thing I'm looking at is for our financial system is getting a purchase order system. This will also help with knowing what is in your line item encumbrance.
Yeah.
But it really does aid for all the years I did with the county. It just mainstreams so many things. And in 18 years, I never had to deal with one thievery.
Yeah. I just want guardrails put on it that you, council member, sees a class they want to take, they go ahead and just sign up for it, charge it. I would rather them be able to come to you first and say, hey, we're going to take this class, this is going to be $500.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Make sure. There's checks and balances.
Yeah, nice accountability. Yeah. And right now, that's what the council has been doing. That's something you're tasked to keep up with. The card that stays at City Hall is for City Hall. The same thing for the police department. The police department, underneath their directive, they will hold a card as well. Running back and forth, you know, is defeating the purpose, number one. The expenditure, the policy, the guidelines, that is basically the glue to this policy. accountability, the receipts come back to me, I review the receipts. You pre-asking for your classes. There's guidelines to each of these things, and as of right now, there has been no problems with it. But that entity is assigned by name of council member and mayor with the city of Statham on that card as well. So you will be giving a number, each one receives a number, which is attached to that individual. So when the bank statements come in, you get a bank statement, and it's your job to make sure you have all the receipts. And when you hand in that bank statement to get paid, all those receipts are checked off. So it holds accountability. Okay. All right.
We're moving on to number 3, an ordinance amending the code of the city of Statham, Georgia, Chapter 4, alcohol beverages.
Jody, show rolls on.
Come on, Jody.
All right, this is an ordinance that was actually discussed, this was brought by Councilmember Torelli specifically. As y'all know, this council and the city has made it a point this year to try to expand our offerings as far as special events, city events in the downtown area. And in connection with that, a lot of cities, in order to promote attendance and in order to promote a more lively atmosphere, have established certain rules whereby alcoholic beverages can be sold by licensed establishments, and that patrons can take those beverages outside of the licensed establishment during special events. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. In this particular amendment, and this only addresses, this is an amendment to our alcohol ordinance, it establishes that if there is a outdoor special event occurring, and there's 2 possibilities for that, we'll discuss this more on agenda item number 5. Either if it is a city-sponsored event, the city is putting on the event. The city, through the special event committee, can establish an entertainment area by map. And within that area, then patrons can take alcoholic beverages, again, purchased from a licensed establishment in the city of Statham or by a vendor who holds a state serving license and can walk around with that beverage in their hand and consume that beverage within that area and only within that area. Again, this is not a BYOB policy. This is you have to purchase it from a licensed vendor or business, and then it has to be in a appropriate container. The other possibility is if there is a private event and the city has issued an outdoor special event permit. You have to come in, you have to apply, get permission. Again, part of that process is we want this area to be our special entertainment area, and then the sale and consumption would be limited to that area. But that's the dumbed down version of what this says. This is just establishing all the rules to make that happen. Any specific questions, by all means ask.
Does this just pertain to beer and wine?
Beer and wine only. No liquor, no distilled spirits. And it has to be in a shatterproof plastic cup, no larger than 16 ounces, no more than 2 alcoholic beverages in your hand at one time, so you can buy one for you and your friend or your spouse or partner. Sales are limited to 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on the day of the event, and those are the highlights. Yep.
Jody,
Yes.
where does, where does liability fall on that? Like a special event, whether it be at somebody's home and outside of their home, or like an event city-sponsored here, is there guidelines, even though it's just beer and wine, you can consume an awful lot. How does that control?
So a couple of things, a couple of answers to that question. So I'll start with the easiest one. If it is not a city-sponsored event, if it is a private event that is being held pursuant to an outdoor special event permit, part of that process would be that private entity having insurance, indemnifying, holding the city harmless. So liability would be entirely on the entity holding the event. That's part one. Part two, if it is a city-sponsored event, then in theory, liability would be on the city, but liability would be on the city regardless of whether, alcohol is involved or not. For example, somebody's walking down our sidewalk and there's a crack in the sidewalk and they slip or they trip and injure themselves, that's on the city already. In terms of somebody over-serving themselves, this does not exempt somebody from being prosecuted for public drunkenness or disorderly conduct. So if somebody gets unruly or out of control and is observed by one of our police officers, that person can be arrested and detained.
If they're inebriated and leave the
That's not,
area,
that would not be on the city, because the city is not the bartender. The person selling the alcohol would be.
they're liable.
Yes.
So if they leave the premises and go down the Atlanta Highway towards Athens, getting a wreck, and a police officer shows up and he's drunk,
That's not the city's liability. That is the person serving the alcohol. The city's not doing the selling. It's just like if you go to a bar and a bartender sells somebody alcohol when they are clearly intoxicated and allows that person to leave. Well, public comment comes after. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Mayor, I know that there were some members of the public that wanted to comment on this that had to leave early, so I think we're going to allow public comment on just this item. Or at least that was the plan. So at this time, I guess we can go to public comment, and it would probably be subject to the same rules as any other public comment, so speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. And I'm happy to keep time.
Anyone who's signed up for public comment on this and wants to speak on issue 3?
The first is Mr. Edmund Nelson. It says Edmund. I know it says Eddie, but I'm just reading the name.
Yeah, he's gone.
I don't know what y'all want to do. Oh, can you leave? Okay. So next would be, yep.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kristen Schubnell. I have previously came to an event that you guys had. I own Cheers Mobile Beverage Co., which is a mobile bartending service, but we also do non-alcoholic beverages as well. Something that I wanted to call out that he mentioned is if you guys do move forward with this, I think it's important. He mentioned licensing, but licensing it is important to a certain extent, but anybody can go on license and get a bartending license for $12.50. So that licensing really means nothing. What's important is insurance. You need a beverage provider who is licensing and insured. Your main concern, Mr. Burnett, was if someone leaves, who was responsible for that. So I myself work in Auburn at their Food Truck Friday events. I work in Winder at their Food Truck Friday events, serving alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. And a big thing there is just making sure that licensing and insurance is very important. Also, special event permits. I would very, very much advocate for this. Not only does it, obviously benefit me, but I think it really does bring some positivity to the community. It brings in it makes the city become more attractive for events. It's not just encouraging. I know there's, stuff that comes along with drinking alcohol, but, there's some really, really positive things that can come of it as well, including revenue for the city, encouraging people to come out to your events. So I'm a big advocate for it. But like I said, I do work with other cities and counties locally, so I would love to help out with any questions that you guys may have or suggestions, including having, police officers there, having a certain area, around the event. We always provide like our cups with our logos, to make sure that you're not having cans or anything like that. But, I just really, really wanted to come out and speak on this, that I think it's really great for your community. Again, I'm seeing lots of cities grow by coming out and having these events. And I think it's a really great opportunity and it really entices people to come to Tatum. So yeah, that's all I have. Anybody want to ask questions or no?
Does an- Does anybody have any questions?
Jody, I got one.
Sure.
Pertaining to private events,
Oh, yeah.
and you saying that they're, insurance, that they would be responsible. How about for police officers? Is there a guideline on how many police officers that would need to be there at a function like that,
We're
or?
crossing the streams. Let's hold on to that question until until the special event policy that's number 5
Okay,
on the agenda.
okay,
Because I think that's not unique to alcohol.
okay.
That's a discussion that's a broader discussion for all public events. And something,
Yeah.
just one comment on what she added. We also have just recently updated, I know I worked with Councilmember Bogenreiter on updating the vendor application form, and insurance and permitting and showing proof of that is now part of our approved vendor process. So that's something that's being handled on the front end, so that would be in place before day of the event, so, yeah. Belt and suspenders.
And I also just wanted to ask about the private event application that you're talking about, the licensing. Would that be like if someone is having an event at their home or a wedding venue, or is this?
It would be if anybody wanted to have an outdoor special event, it's usually tailored towards city property.
Okay.
Like if they're doing it here in the community center at a park or something like that, and they want alcohol to be served there. Because our rules currently are, if it's anywhere in public, or on public property, no alcohol, period. So this would be an exception to that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. So, no more questions, right? Okay. So go to number 4 on the agenda. The new road name, Tim Torelli.
So this is the road that we voted on I guess 2 months ago. It's actually 2 alleys over, crosses Broad, goes down to Elizabeth. It's going to be our responsibility to name it. If anybody has suggestions, can't be, well, anyway, there's some, some good historical ideas out there. I guess we just need to have them in by, in 2 weeks to vote on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So let us know.
No, well, so that's not entirely accurate. So the road has, based upon, our research, based upon, again, the fact that that road, that open, it's shown on a publicly recorded plat as an unopened alleyway. The city did make modifications. They installed signs, they put, speed humps on there. That conduct paired with that plat is enough to say it is the city's responsibility. What we need to vote on is to name it. That's what needs to happen. Once it is officially named, then we can go to the post office and get it assigned, name, and then any buildings or homes on there can be given street addresses. So that's what we're voting on, is just naming it. It's already a city road from our perspective.
So if you go at the historical monument on Broad Street and read that, it might help you in coming up with a name for the road. So one that I've come up with is called Calumet Valley Village Way. And because this was in 1892, Statham was originally known as Calumet, Calamit Village. And I thought that was pretty good. So I'm submitting that as the name for the road. Anybody else have any a road better than that? Let me know. But yes, ma'am.
Public input would be great.
let us know. Let
The,
council.
the name has to be officially voted on by the council, but, yeah, anybody can tell the council, hey, I think this is a good idea, and then it's up to them to decide.
Yep, in the end, we decide. So, come talk to us. Don't be afraid. Next agenda item is the special event policy.
So Mayor, this is an item that has been discussed in the past with previous council, and something that has, again, as we have made it a concerted effort to try to have more and more special events within the city, the recurring issues keep coming up. And so what we wanted to, this is just for discussion right now. In my head, from a legal perspective, I see kind of three categories of special events or that need to be addressed. On one end of the spectrum, you have city events, that it is the city that is putting it on. It is done entirely using city staff, city personnel, volunteers, but at the end of the day, it is the city's event. The city can bring vendors in, they can have food trucks, they can do whatever they want to do, but it is a city event. With that, there doesn't really need to be a policy. We decide what takes place during the event, we establish the rules, and what have you. On the other end of the spectrum, you have purely private events. And when I say private events, what I mean is it is being put on by a private entity, but it is being put on public property, whether that be in the downtown area, whether that be at one of our parks, whether that be here at the community center. And it's not just rentals. It's something where it's open to the public, and it is a large festival that requires significant city resources, whether that be police department assistance, whether that be traffic flow regulations, whether that means closing down areas of traffic, portable, porta-johns, other facilities. If there is going to be a burden asked that the city incur as part of it, even though it's not a city event, that's the other end of the spectrum. And then in the middle, you have what I would call the public-private event, where it's partially sponsored by the city, partially put on by a private entity. Whether that's something that's done like, Statham in conjunction with Lions Club, or Statham in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, or something along those lines, a joint event put on within the public area. So category one, we don't really need to discuss much, if at all. Category number two, I know that in the recent past, maybe a year ago, I drafted some proposed rules and applications and policies for those, where it is a private event, the private entity, business, organization is putting it on, they receive all revenue from it, it's their event, but again, they're asking the city to provide public service or resources. And the guidelines that I came up with required an application process, a fee that they pay for a certain amount of public support, whether that be pay for police officers to be present, and they pay the salaries of those officers, whether they be on duty or off duty. That basically they understand the rules, what's expected of them, and that it doesn't fall, it becomes a net neutral for the city. The city does not come out of pocket for this public entity to have its event and collect all the revenue from it. The third category, I think it's worth us having some discussion about how that looks. My recommendation is that the city not do any such events unless there is a written agreement between the city and the individual or entity putting that on. The reason why is because, again, the object of the exercise is for the city to receive a benefit for putting on such events, whether that be through, tax revenue, whether that be from special event revenue, whether that be from enhancement towards the downtown area. What we don't want to have happen is that the city contribute significant financial resources to an event, but then a private entity receive all of the financial benefit from it. That's it causes me a lot of heartburn legally, and I think it creates an audit nightmare that the revenue is going somewhere else, even though the city's pumping in significant financial resources, and not receiving a tangible benefit as a result of it. Which I will acknowledge and agree there are certain intangible benefits, but how do you quantify that when somebody else is obviously, and we have no idea where monies for vendors are going and everything else. It needs to be a partnership, not a just use the city's resources, if you understand what I mean. So we wanted to have that discussion. We wanted to see where the city council was on that, what your thoughts on that were. If we wanted to, I could bring, I know I've provided this to some of you. I think it's sent to the mayor, I think it's sent to the city administrator, and Gary was the city council member who actually asked for it way back when. And so I don't know how widely it was distributed, but it's something we need to have a discussion about, especially with all these new events. I'm sorry? Yeah, sure, I'll do it right now. Doing it right now. So this is where y'all get to ask any questions or share what your thoughts are, knee-jerk, off the cuff.
And to come and pay for all the police and public, and, I mean, I would just like to look at the numbers a little bit more.
Can I ask a question? When you say private help, when you say public-private, do you mean like, so for example, for the city of Winder, supposed to be the money brought from local businesses, would that be considered private, public-private, or would that be considered?
So obviously, if I'll use an example. So like, let's say the city wanted to have a 4th of July celebration. Obviously, businesses that are selling stuff get to keep the revenue they make. It's more a matter of like, if the city brings in outside vendors, who gets to keep the vendor application fee? Who gets the, I mean, if there's fundraising going on there, you know, raffles or what have you, and the city wants to raise that money and apply it towards, you know, the park or improvements or whatever, who gets to keep that? So we're not trying to like, you know, assess, we're not taking over city businesses. That's not the intent here. So in your example, it sounds like it's a Winder event? Yeah. So that's a Winder event. That is purely a Winder event. They have vendors come in. Vendors can sell their foods or wares, whatever. They collect the revenue from it. But that is a Winder event, and so the application fees and approvals for the vendors that are allowed to come to the Food Truck Friday, that is what's kept by the city.
Did you have some other things that you wanted to speak about, when it comes to the event?
Okay. I guess we just wanted to talk about the fireworks for the 4th of July, and we have proposals for 2 companies, so they're both the same amount of time. It's approximately $1,000 a minute. So we already have, about half of the money. We're still trying to raise the money, and we just have to look at these contracts. And I think you've looked at them both, have you not, Jody?
I have.
Okay.
I think this needs to be a separate agenda item, so I think this needs to be an amendment. We need to amend the agenda to talk about this. And we need to do it after we concluded the discussion of the special event policy.
Okay, that's fine.
As far as the special event policy?
We came across Jody, so.
And I don't think that'll be ready to be voted on at the next, voting session, so I would just encourage everybody to look over it, and then let's continue the discussion until the June work session. I think that's probably the most efficient use of our time.
We need a motion to amend the agenda to add, the Fourth of July.
I'll make a motion
Then-
to amend the agenda as a discussion on the Fourth of July fireworks.
A second. All in favor?
Any opposed?
Okay, so continuing on with that. So you've looked at both of the proposals. Did you have any issues with any of
Nope,
them?
these
Okay.
are both agreeable as to form. And they both, just so y'all are aware, they have insurance, they're indemnifying, holding the city harmless. They've set the parameters, there's also rainouts, a date, and all the other fun stuff. I have actually experience with Pyrotechnico vendor, no issues with their contract. Big Grand Fireworks, I've never seen it before, but it includes almost identical provisions, just different.
Yeah. Big Grand
Never-
Fireworks did winders last year, and
Yeah.
I believe they're doing winders also this year.
Mhm.
So I guess we just, next, meeting, we just have to, see how much money that we've raised and how much the city is gonna have to put towards it, if any, and then just vote on one of these companies and get the contract signed so we can get them booked.
I did have a question. It shows that Casto Trading would be the place where the fireworks would be, ignited. Does that put them in a liability by using them and not a city-owned property?
So that is, and I don't know how that was selected. I don't know whether Castos was consulted with that. Yeah. Yeah. But I would, again, liability is on the contractor, on the fireworks provider vendor. And so, my only suggestion in that regard, and this is not really for the city, it's more for Castos. I'd recommend that Castos be named as an additional insured on that policy. Because as it is, the city is named as an additional insured, but not Castos.
That was my concern. Any more discussion? Okay, it's time for citizen input, and so who's next?
Jason Martin?
Hello. Thank you guys very much. I just wanted to quickly say thank you to the city and to our police. I had an issue last Friday, and I was out of town, and my wife needed some help, and they certainly did respond, and not just the police, but the whole community. And it made me realize how many friends I have in town, and it was really important to me. And so thank you. Sorry. I have a problem down the new street. I'm excited, ridiculously excited about that. Like way more excited than I should be. So, Halloween Alley, Pumpkin Place, Sunflower Street. These are my top three. Anyway, I'm still having an issue with my neighbor going way too fast up and down the alley, and I really do believe that it is a real safety hazard. I mean, I have people walk all the time, kids on bikes, everything is right there on that sidewalk, and I'm still hoping that more can be done to slow that person down. I still want speed bumps. I would love to have a signage. I would love to have I know the police have a lot of other things to do, but any help with keeping an eye on that alley would be amazing. And then I also had another question just about, all right, I have a question. I know I only have a few minutes. Are there any rules or ordinances about cameras and lights. Is a person allowed to take a camera and stick it into your backyard? Is a person allowed to take floodlights and mount them so they shine into your windows? What is the reasonable expectation of privacy in your own backyard? What is the reasonable expectation of having a habitable backyard? If somebody takes your backyard and moves, you know, a kennel next door to you, you know, what rights does a property owner have when they live next door to something like that? I understand, you know, what people have, and, you know, I respect people's property and their right to be secure, but it seems like I'm in a situation where this person's rights are causing me to lose my backyard. And I don't, it seems insane to me that you can take a camera and just stick it into someone's backyard. You can put it over a fence and just have it shine right into his backyard and then have light. So I would love to know, if there's a resource on what rules or what I can do, if there's anything that the city can do or that I can do to follow through on that. I would very much like to find out about that, if anybody can help me with that. And I'm so excited about this street that I'll be quiet now. I had more, but I'm gonna quit while I'm ahead. Thank you, guys.
Gary Venable?
Good evening, Gary Venable, 2021 Broad Street, Statham. Just want to touch briefly on the special event policy. Recently, some of the neighbors on Broad Street have formed a nonprofit for Halloween. And the reason being is that we try to take the heavy lifting off the rest of the community in that area so that we can raise funds, work with the city, provide candy so that this event can continue to carry forward. When doing so, it gets really expensive quickly for a small nonprofit that basically is living off the sales of items that you would sell at a festival, t-shirts, stickers, and basically begging for donations. So I would ask the council to please keep this in mind whenever you're setting up a special event policy. We definitely understand that there needs to be written guidelines in place. When I was on the council, I was one that asked Jody for written guidelines. It's going to be impossible for us as a nonprofit to pay for the number of police officers that we need to keep people safe that evening. We probably have 10,000 people show up. We need every road blocked off so that people don't get hit by cars. I don't see any way that we would be able to afford it as a nonprofit. I don't know what the language would need to be in order to make this happen, but we do give back to the community, not just in candy, but in volunteer hours. Normally, if we have funds left over in previous years before we formed the nonprofit, the community gave back to Shop with a Hero. One year, I believe we funded a good portion of the Statham Christmas. So all I can ask is whenever you are considering this special events policy, please keep in mind that not one size fits all. If you do draft this up so that one size fits all, then you're going to basically crush one of your biggest events in Statham. Thank you.
Betty Lyle?
Well, as you all know, the festival is coming up. This is 26 years that we have done it. We've never taken a dime for ourselves. Everything we have made has gone back in to the community. We have paid light bills. We have had food trucks come in. We have bought the benches. We have built parks. And now all of a sudden, the rules is going to change. The city, we've never asked them for anything. They finally started paying for the pork pot and paying the police to work. That is your responsibility. So, we're having a meeting here Monday night at 6:30. And I would like for you all to show up, because if I've got to work under y'all, then y'all get somebody else to finish it.
Those are all we have for citizen input, Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mayor, can I talk to Gary? Gary, can you come back up? Am I allowed to address what he talked about, or?
If you have a question, I suppose.
I do. I thought in the past Halloween was Halloween. Kids showed up, the police blocked off. Why all of a sudden is it we have a entity now that controls everything, and you're asking the police? I don't understand what happened over the years.
Well, Tim, you were in those meetings when we discussed this. So, to refresh your memory, the reason why we did this was we're not controlling everything, but people did not want to be bothered with meetings after meetings and texts and emails. So we decided to form this nonprofit so that our books are transparent and that there wouldn't be any question by you or any of the council members or the public or anyone else. So as far as the nonprofit goes, that's the reason why we formed up, was to hopefully take all the workload that we were asking everybody else to do and basically sell the T-shirts, the stickers, and everything else so that we could provide candy and work easier with the city. As you may remember, previously, with the previous administration, previous mayor, it was under that administration and their discretion that they decided to let nonprofits not have to, they filed a permit, but they did not have to pay for a permit or for police or for porta potties. So working under those premises, that's the reason why we thought it would be best to form a nonprofit. But everyone is still, invited to participate. We're definitely not trying to close anybody else as this organization. We just thought it would be much easier to have several people form this up, try to raise the money, and then still get back to the community.
Anybody else?
That's all we have.
I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mayor, real quick, it should be noted for the minutes, the agenda has an executive session, but there's no need for an executive
Right.
session tonight.
Lee made the motion to adjourn, and who's second? Tim second. All in favor, show of hands. This meeting is adjourned.